Hello there. So let's talk about forecasting. Forecasting that has been key into understanding where you're going. So looking at what happened last year and where you're going the next few years from now. This coming year, the next following year, and the year after that. So I want you guys to take a look at this. This is a forecasting tool taking into consideration the year before. So I cannot give you this, but I wanted to show you this. This is basically total income and then breaking down the expenses one by one. Fuel, breakage. Breakage is what happens when something breaks in a house and you have to reimburse the client for one reason or another. The credit card fees, equipment, obviously payroll is huge, taxes, workers' comp, janitorial supplies and material. If you do any laundry for clients and that costs you money, you got to put it in there. So you have a gross profit amount. This is basically just taking these expenses right here, the cost of goods sold divided by the total income to get the total income minus the cost of goods sold gives you the gross profit. So basically your gross profit, then you got to take into consideration your other expenses. We do have GPS tracking, so we spend about that much, for almost $3,000 in GPS tracking, so we know where the vehicles are at all time. Because we lease our vehicles, it tends to be quite expensive, so we do spend a lot of money on having leased vehicles that are new and branded. We also spend a lot of money on education and taking clients out. So you can see here our dining expense can be a little heavy. Obviously, background checks and recruitment has to be taken into consideration. The expenses also include, obviously, general liability insurance, uniform, and marketing is a huge expense for us. As you can see here, we spend almost 20% in marketing. That includes public relations, blogging, search engine optimization, Yelp, as you can see there. Website maintenance, we're always testing different websites, seeing what's working, what's not working, doing some tests from time to time so we can see if changing the color of a button is helping out with conversion. So we tend to be very on the techie side, but not really, because I'm not a techie, but I try to be. So it helps to make sure that we keep understanding, that we keep the customer in mind and we understand how the customer is thinking. Obviously, payroll expenses are also here for the office staff. Lawyer fees, professional fees, because we got to create manuals that cost money, operating agreement that also costs a lot of money. So anything with regards to professional fees, it could be your accountant or your bookkeeper that you pay, that has to be taken into consideration. Email hosting, telephone, mobile platforms, anything software related in order for you to run your business. We also have the parking expense and travel expense for trade shows and that type of stuff. So we do spend a lot of money. At the end of the day, because we have been investing everything into the business, this is only, we're getting about 10% net. So basically your net income divided by your top revenues, and that gives you about, for us, was about 10% in 2012, I believe. So how do you use this information to come up with a forecast for the next year and the year after? So you can see here, we have created this tool where, based on the input that you have in the historical date here in 2012 and the percentage of revenue, you can basically, depending on your residential growth, your commercial growth, let's say you plan to do 20% growth in 2013, you press enter. My computer is a little slow. So as soon as you press enter, you can see here that these numbers have changed, and now your net went from, let's see what that was, 97,000 to 143. So all of these changes when your percentage that you plan to grow changes. So if we go from 12% to 25%, we get 174,000 net. All of this is a formula. These are formulas that we have built into the tool in order for us to be able to forecast quite easily what will happen in the event of X. So, for example, if we say residential is going to grow only 1%, and even if we grow the commercial growth rate, because commercial is not so much of our business back in those days, even if we grow it by 64%, we will only have net 25,000. That means we have to fight really hard to make sure that number in the growth of the residential account continues to go up instead of going down. Otherwise, we could be hit really heavily with a drop in net income. But let's say, for example, that the next year, this is just 5%, and that the commercial already has increased, as you can see here, to 127. And let's say we said, well, you know what? We can probably do 25%. You see that number went to 62,000. So from 12% and 48,000 in net, now if we grow this number to 25%, our net goes up to 62,000. But if we can do 40%, 40%, look at the number. So it's not that much yet because this number is not as strong as we would like it to be yet. We're just starting here. Let's suppose that we're just starting here. But let's say we can do 15% in residential. Look, because the revenues for the residential services are so high. If you have just 15% increase, your net goes up really high. So you gotta make sure that you put your money where the money is, where you're generating money from. So if you're trying to grow the residential, and if you try to grow a commercial division and it's only a tiny little amount, and you already have a good foundation with the residential, just growing it a little bit might yield you better results than going with a commercial account. It all depends on your goals. I'm just giving you an example. So here you can change how many field staff. You could have these numbers, but if this number goes out of whack and now you have 25 employees instead of 22, you could be in big trouble. If you have 25 employees and you have all of these numbers, 23 and 5%. So it depends on your growth. It depends on how much these people are making. If they're making from 14,000, let's say if they're going to make 25,000, you are going to be in big trouble. You're in the negatives here. So you got to make sure you're taking into consideration how many employees it's going to take you to generate the type of sales that you need without breaking the bank. Because if you increase your employees so much that then even if you increase revenue by 15%, you still not positive, that's a big problem. Because you went from 14,000, which is okay, but if you add 10,000 to that, and let's say it's 24,000, you're gonna be in big trouble. So you gotta make sure you play around with this. You gotta check the formulas are good for you. All of this is highly customizable to my company. I just wanted to show you this because basically this can give you an idea, and you can find email me, I can send you this, but you have to customize it. You have to make sure that the formulas are good for your company. This is highly customized for my company, so I wouldn't recommend using my tool. I just wanted to give you an idea of what you can do for your company, and all you gotta do is go on Upwork and put a job post to find an accountant or someone that can do a forecasting tool for your company based on your last year growth and what you're trying to do for the next couple of years. You got to give them how much you're trying to grow, the growth rate percentage. You got to give them how many employees you're going to have. You got to give them how much those employees make. If you're going to give them bonus, if you're going to give them $500, you're going to go even down further. But let's say you grow 55% and you give them a bonus because they're going to work really hard, and even though they're going to make $10,000 more, you still can make money. So you have to customize this extremely well based on your company. This is how many vehicles. If you have 9 vehicles, but let's say you don't have vehicles because your employees are supposed to bring you their own vehicles. Something's going to go wrong here because that's not our model, as you can see here. But if I have, instead of 9 vehicles, I only have 2 vehicles, the nets are really high because now I don't even have to consider leases. And that means I have to go back into my automobile expenses here and make sure that I figure this out and I take the leases out from here. So not everything is automatic, but for the most part, if you keep your business model the same, having a forecasting tool is going to help you to do your budget year by year very, very easily. Then you just got to come up with a monthly budget. But this one will give you an overview of, what's going to happen 2 years from now. If I focus really hard and I work really hard now and I spend X amount of money on marketing and I do this and this and this and this and that, what can happen in my company? So this was very good for us to look into it when I was first starting. And we have used it ever since because it gives me an overview of what's going to happen in the company, how many vehicles am I going to have, am I going to am I going to be able to afford employee bonuses, how many people do I need to hire next year, how much is the training per employee. For us, the training per employee is considering the payroll. This is just considering background check, manager time, and not the entire training per employee. That's why this number is so low. Because once you take into consideration that they're working in the field and being trained with another employee, that number goes into the payroll, and it was just way too complicated for us to divide it. So we decided just to leave it as part of the payroll and just take a small percentage to go into the training per employee here. And if this is other expenses, the growth rate, if this goes high, 3%, obviously that's going to affect your numbers at the bottom right here, because your other expenses right here are going to be a little higher than if you just have a smaller amount. So again, you got to customize a tool like this for your company based on how you run your company, your vehicles, if you provide uniforms, if you provide the cleaning equipment, if you have subcontractors or W-2 employees. This is highly customizable. I just wanted you to see this so you can plan ahead. You can start now in 2017 and plan 2018, 19, and 20, and 21, and even 22. So you could do it 2-3 years out, or you could do it 5 years out. Obviously, this is a forecasting. You gotta customize it for your company so it's highly efficient for you and your company. Alrighty, guys. See you on the next one. Ciao now.